MPs' expenses. IPSA condemned for absurd cost of secrecy bid. The regulatory body set up after the MPs' expenses scandal has been condemned for spending an estimated £500,000 on a failed attempt to withhold details of politicians' claims. The Independent Parliamentary Standards Authority, there's a fucking laugh for you, has fought and lost 3 separate court cases in a bid to avoid having to release copies of receipts and invoices submitted by MPs. Did you hear that? IPSA have fought and lost 3 times to avoid having to release MPs' expenses. What the? Unbelievable! If they'd fought and lost 3 times to allow us to see their expenses, but the courts were saying we couldn't, I'd have some sympathy. But this so-called independent body, IPSA, is trying to hide MPs' expenses from us when they were brought into existence to do exactly the opposite. They were set up solely to help bring transparency to MPs' expenses claims. You can't get more transparent than actually showing us copies of their receipts, yet IPSA are trying to block this in their bid to be more transparent. Unbelievable. Up is down, down is up, black is white, white is black. Help me, help me. Somebody get me out of this fucking place. They should just release them and say, there you are, we're independent, make of them what you will. Instead, they're now considering going to the Supreme Court to prevent us from seeing them. Someone stop this fucking madness. IPSA, these are the same people that even the Prime Minister, apparently, couldn't stop giving MPs an 11% pay rise. Despite being able to launch a nuclear weapon and bomb brown people in far-off country whenever he likes, Cameron just couldn't stop IPSA giving MPs an 11% pay rise. IPSA seem to be about as independent as David Axelrod is in this coming election. With expenses back in 2012-13 hitting over £98 million, which was only £3 million below the 2009 level when the initial expenses scandal hit, the only reason IPSA are fighting so hard to stop us seeing the MPs' receipts and invoices for their expenses, and they're fighting it so hard with our tax money, by the way, the only reason is to stop people seeing that the fraud that the MPs were committing is still going on. What else can it be? We've just had another level of bureaucracy put in the way to stop us getting to the expenses truth. We need a new politic in this country. MPs with 2, 3, 4, 5, and some people like Malcolm Rifkin, even 6 other jobs. You've got MPs greasing the skids for big business and banks whilst getting backhanders, and that's what they are. They may as well be in brown envelopes and given to them in corridors somewhere. They're backhanders. MPs are robbing bastards. We even have MPs that work most of their time, like Geoffrey Cox, for other organisations, whilst getting a full salary and trough-snorting expenses. MPs' expenses are going through the roof again. MPs are not listening again. MPs are not caring again. MPs are slavishly following the party line because they do not give a shit about you or I. I've never been so turned off by politics. The whole industry is so obviously fraudulent and corrupt. But most of all, most importantly, it's so plastic. Everywhere you look, plastic people, plastic questions, plastic audiences, plastic journalists, plastic, plastic, plastic. I'm sick to fucking death. I mean, the other day the Prime Minister was lauded because he showed a little bit of passion. Oh, bully for him. After 5 years as Prime Minister, he finally shows a tiny bit of passion. And the media go mental saying, yes, he's arrived. He's showing passion. There wasn't enough passion for anyone. It certainly didn't show me that he had any passion. He doesn't care about anything because he's minted and he knows he's controlled. And the whole politics in this country is controlled. And that's why they dupe the public time and time again by introducing bodies like IPSA to apparently make things more transparent, when in reality they do the opposite and they protect the very scum that they're supposed to be exposing. How much more proof do we need before we start to think about drastic change in this country and we get rid of the Rothschild's control puppets out of our political system?